Okay. Share the screen. And okay. Greetings, everyone. This is the meeting of the Freeport Withdrawal Committee on February 27th, 2014. It is now about 6:45, and we have everybody in attendance tonight, so full house. We are meeting at the Freeport High School in the conference room, which we'll attempt to make our home base until further notice, as long as it works out okay. So the first item on the agenda is to look at the minutes from the February 13th meeting. And has everybody had a chance to take a look at them?
I have.
All right. And I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as written.
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And then none opposed. So that passes. We've approved the minutes. So the next is public comment. Any public? There seems to be no public.
We have none yet.
None yet. If they come in, we can take their comments.
Let's move on.
So we'll move on. Thanks. All right, so new business, we have a few items on here. The first is gathering community input on the Freeport High School vision. Dennis, you weren't here the last time, but we spoke a bit about ideas on how we would gather some input so that we had some context for our negotiations and what kind of structure we might want to look for in the agreement that we're negotiating. And we bounced around a few ideas, but the one that seemed to rise to the top was the idea of hosting a forum of some kind for the town that would be inviting some experts in who have advice on school size, programming, impacts of size on programming, and then invite the public to come and hear from a panel of those folks, maybe 3 or 4 people. And then a facilitated discussion or charrette or roundtables or whatever we want to call that kind of an activity. And then I had taken an action item from the last meeting to begin to look into that a little bit and to talk to Edwards, who's a local prior principal of Freeport High School, and a man who's spent his professional career steeped in education as a teacher, both a teacher and administrator. So I did talk with him. He's down in Florida, but he was enthusiastic about the idea of being involved in a community forum like that, and he had a lot of good names to bring to the table with respect to folks that we could invite. And indicated an interest in either him facilitating or finding a professional facilitator to facilitate something like that. So that was the initial step. And so he and I agreed to go back and forth by email and see what the next steps were. The only downside for him is he's not in town until the beginning of April. And we had talked about the timing of this being in mid to late March. Yeah. So one thought is if he can put together a panel of folks, or we can put together a panel of folks together, we could go forward without him and so forth. But he's interested in being involved and willing to be consulted on matters of school policy or whatever that we need him for.
And the individuals that he suggested were educators?
Former educators, people. He suggested some folks. There's the Great Schools group down in Portland. He suggested there's folks from other districts that have withdrawn. He's going to give me we had a phone conversation. I didn't write them down, but he's going to give me an email with some names and contact information.
I don't think we necessarily need a facilitator who has a school orientation.
Right.
We need somebody, and I know there's a couple of folks in town here that we actually do a pretty good job. So, and they're local, they're well respected by the community. So sometimes I think she had one of the ones who used to put somebody in the corner. You know? Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you're not going to behave,
go stand in the corner. Nice.
She did a good job.
Education. Could you email me those names?
Yeah, I will.
If you have?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I'll reach out and continue to move this forward with the target time frame of mid to late March. It is the end of February now, so it will be likely late March before we get this kind
And
of
I
thing.
think getting that information in front of folks to mull over and then discuss it in, like you say, some 3 or 4 groups or 5 or 6.
I think that's a nice idea.
And then get them, have somebody in the group report it out. It can be one of us. If there's 4.
We could staff
That's
each
right.
one of
You
the
could have
tables.
each of the subgroup if there was that many people. Yeah, that's great.
And that way you at least get as many ideas as are on the room out of the table, and then you have some discussion around those, and that gives us some guidance going forward.
Yeah, it's in a structured format.
Right. Yeah, and I think if we went in with specific, a small number of specific kind of guiding questions that we wanted to explore, so people aren't just wide ranging all over the place, so we kind of were trying to keep some focus to it. We could use that feedback to inform us around the specific negotiation points that we have to work through. So,
and I think after our first meeting with the working group, we're going to have a better idea what the hot spots are and what the challenging discussions and decisions will be made.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I'm just looking at your agenda there. Anything else on this point there before we go on to next steps? That's my. Oh, thanks. I've got it on my PowerPoint.
No, but you can't share. I'm going to share mine.
No, that's right. We're good.
Since you're the boss.
Thank you. Anything else on the community forum idea? One other point I want to bring up is there's a lot of energy around this idea in different forums. So there are different groups that have been talking about trying to do forums and hold discussions or measure sentiment, and so I think it'll be good for us to take a step out on this and try to focus some of that energy a little bit, at least for the short term, for understanding issues pertaining to the withdrawal. And then as this thing matures, then there's going to be a larger dialogue about whether to withdraw or not withdraw. Now we need to figure out if we do withdraw, what do we want that to look like, and
one piece that we keep hearing from at different levels along the way, both at town council and even our group, is the issue of sports. So I think we may want to make sure that we have some dialogue about that during that. So folks who want to comment on that or have ideas about that or have questions about that, and understanding how the Maine Principals Association puts that together with different classes and
sizes.
Some folks who when we were a Class B school, we were Class C school. I mean, before things were different. And some of where you are in the state of Maine makes a big difference.
We're in A now.
No, we're B.
B. We were in Class C.
So that has travel ramifications and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you're also playing bigger schools. And some of these have been Class B schools for a long time. They have well-developed programs.
They know they're.
And
it's like when I was wrestling in high school, we had guys that would wear trash bags and sit next to radiators to lose weight before they could wrestle the last class down. Right?
I was often,
yeah, well, I would say that because that's how they kick your butt.
That's how they kick your butt. They guarantee the win, right? Yeah, right.
With respect to drama, I know the cutoff is for Class A is 25, so we're getting pretty close to a Class A on drama as well. So that will change the dynamic.
It's a good drama competition.
So it might be worth looking into what those are for each, because I was really surprised that it was as low as 525.
I think that the arts are low, and we need to consider.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So those are.
I think that's a good research topic to bring to that kind of a forum, would be some facts about the classes thing and how that works and that system. So, all right, good. So I'm going to continue to drive that. Everybody's happy with that, and Richie, if you would send me some moderator names, that'd be
There's
great.
a couple that we've used, so I'll get it for you.
And I'll pass around the names that Tom comes up with, and if anybody else thinks of anybody other leaders that would be good to potentially candidates for the panel, that would be good.
I think if as we talk about who we're going to get to maybe present or organize some of this, I want to make sure that we don't have people that already have, I guess, a preconceived notion of what's good or bad. Because I think it's important we have an open discussion and we put it all on the table, because that good or bad is going to be a decision the community is going to make.
That's right.
And it really shouldn't be influenced by any one of ours or certainly somebody who's helping us, their opinion.
And we want conjecture about impacts of different decisions out there, and this is the idea, is to try to get people that have experience, that they've got some battle scars to show, and they can talk to us about what are the practical impacts of these types of decisions. Okay, so next on our agenda we have just to tee this up, we had talked about one of the things we might want to pay some attention to as we think about withdrawal agreements and so forth is potential for cooperation with nearby school districts for specialized curriculum or other programming that we might want to offer in cooperation with neighboring districts. So, and Kate was on point for kind of beginning to organize that effort and how we might approach that. So,
in your packet, if you, on the last 2 pages of the packet, I listed out some schools that we may want to be approaching and contact information if you're free with them. I sent it out via email also because I wanted to make sure that we're on the right track as far as who we'd be reaching out to and maybe a list of priorities.
I know that
we're talking about the meetings and so just we discussed going out as teams potentially to the school districts.
right. So what we've got for districts is Yarmouth, Brunswick, Greeley, and Baxter, Americanig, L'École Français.
Right, as a feeder school, they don't have a high school.
And Harpswell Coastal.
Yes, that's a high school.
Pine Tree has a full system.
Okay.
But kids move back and forth or in and out of that system with ours, and they're actually they've been a very good neighbor. One of the connecting trails to get to there, they have offered to to get from Freeport to there.
We should definitely reach out to them as well. I think that's a good example.
Because they don't have a high school.
No, they do.
They do, yeah.
School, yeah.
There might be some synergies there, right? If they wanted to offer Chinese and we wanted to offer Chinese, we could, hire a teacher together or something like that to get, as an example. So we'll add that one to the list.
All right.
So that's a long list. So how do we want to approach this? We thought, I think last time we met, we talked about pairing up and approaching these districts just with a general kind of set of, Freeport's looking at a standalone option and what kinds of cooperative, are you open to the idea of discussing cooperation and what kinds of things, might be on the table there.
David is still, he's the chair again of the Yarmouth School Board. He was on the board when we met with them before, as we were going through the RPC process. And there was some energy around, exploring collaboration for different things. There are some options for students. Whether we joked about, but a sailing club or a sailing team. You may not have enough kids that are active in Yarmouth or in Freeport, but you put the two of us together, and now you can compete in the active high school racing program. So there's, that was one of the examples. But there's, languages, probably not sports, because we seem to be on the other. We seem to be on the other side of the gym.
We have cooperated on sports in the past. So, for instance, on hockey and girls. The girls' hockey is currently cooperating, and their girls' hockey program is taking Freeport students, and then we have done boys' hockey as well, but they didn't do that this year. So
there's opportunity,
and we do that with honor programs.
We could do that with honors. We could do that with some college programming.
Electives.
Languages. Languages in particular. And it may be that their structure for higher levels of languages is, rather than both of us offering French, Spanish, and Latin 4, 5, 6, or what have you, do that individually. We even talked about being able to do electronically. Basically, kids are in a room like this, and the teacher in one school, and they teach both.
I think technology opens a ton of doors for this kind of thing, and technology combined with geographic proximity can be really interesting. So they could have meetings, and then they could get together and do things, right?
Projects and stuff.
So that's, I think, one of the reasons to, open, not see if they're open. So what if we took the top 3 here and see if we could, or the top 4, the first 4 on the list, and just see if we could get those checked off the list.
You know, communicate with them, see if we can sit down and talk.
Do
Yeah.
we want to target them from one person targets them all, and then we break up for when the meetings happen? Or do we want to?
What is your schedule like?
I'm fine. I'm fine contacting them.
Because
With
as
coordinating
long as
with
I
you.
know ahead of time, I can get away to go to a couple-hour meeting, what have you. So I'll gladly go with you to these meetings if you'd like. We should probably come up with kind of a hit list
An
of
outline,
questions.
yeah.
So that each of them is the same. But I think it's a great opportunity. I think really is important that we talk with them because they're struggling with a big facility and not enough kids. So there may be opportunity there, whether we go it alone. I mean, all of this information that we're talking about right here is all valuable either way.
Right.
Yes,
And
it is. Yes,
and
it
we're
is.
potentially losing kids to their IB program also. So I think
So
that's a great thing.
as long as I know a little bit ahead, I can escape to go to meetings. So.
I've got a fairly tight schedule till April 1st. In fact, I have got a tight schedule till April 1st. I can do night things, but night won't work. But occasionally I can get away. So if I knew in advance, I could, if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you want to go to some of them, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
But if you can, if you have more flexibility, I'm very comfortable having you.
some of the folks
Do the
I
heavy
know,
lifting.
other people in the administrations, just because I've been kicking around too long. So, and that's
From
helpful.
You may have connections at one or the other. Works pretty well. So.
And I know
that's
Michelle as
easy.
well at Baxter, so that's a Baxter connection. Actually, I've got good connections there, and I also know David Ray pretty well, or I've from the old
He's a
days.
good guy.
I've met him a couple times, so I would love to connect with him. So,
And even if we do
Yeah,
three
so whichever way.
people, if we're available, or
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think,
if we
I
could
think
set
it's
the
nice
times
to
up,
have.
yeah.
If we
I
can
agree.
have all of us,
Little
or
critical
we
mass.
can have
Sure.
teams of us,
Okay.
I think it would be
The
great.
L'école Française is in my neighborhood, so I could.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually see Willie and Beth at lunch a lot of days.
Oh, really? You know?
There you go.
So you're in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Wonderful,
I see them all the
wonderful.
time.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they-
and that may be something where we're looking to the middle school potentially with a French program or something where we can tie in and look to see what options.
And the big opportunities you're saying is right on the first page, probably. Right.
Probably. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what the private schools' reactions are, because if we could, I think we have a wonderful natural resource in the sense that we have an abundance of private schools in our town. And wouldn't it be nice to cooperate more and see if there's something we could do? They'd probably like it too.
Yeah, Fiddlehead is another one.
Ah.
New charter, that's a lower grade charter.
The other one we might, and I don't know how, I know they're very active in a lot of things here in Freeport, is the girls' school down at
Right.
Next.
Oh, right on the
Right.
world, yeah, the new
Good
program.
idea.
That's a
Yeah.
great program that they've got down there, so, we might put them on our list just to talk with them.
So I think maybe what we should do with this list is, I think for me, the top priority is that first page. And if we can move our way along that list through, as we're going through this process, we'll be able to gather information about their openness and their enthusiasm for these kinds of ideas.
From a protocol point of view, do you contact the here or the superintendent or both?
I would imagine probably both at the same time would make sense.
Send an introductory
That
letter
way-
and then
right,
you.
because it may be one
then
or
you
the other
look for a
depending on the
meeting.
school system, so that way you're kind of honoring both, I would say.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, and I can see, I don't know how extensive, in the high school education for the Pine Tree School, I mean, there may be opportunities for everything from drama to music to whatever.
Oh, there
here.
you go.
They have their own programming, but there may be some opportunities for them. And the girls at Coastal Studies, they're only there for one semester. But many of them, if they're at that level, they're playing sports at home, they're in drama, they're in they're in the arts and what have you. So having an opportunity to participate in, a local high school while they're here,
Could be good.
maybe a
Yeah.
great opportunity.
Certainly. I think that's a great idea, Rich. All right, so one other point on this is we don't want to lose sight of is that we'll have another, if this withdrawal goes, so there'll be another neighboring school district, and that'll be RSU 5. And so we should make sure that that we're keeping them in mind in ways that we would be able to cooperate and work together with them as well.
I think that the only way a withdrawal works going forward is that we will be
Pretty
still
tight.
attached at the hip.
Yeah, part as friends.
Oh, I think that's critical.
Good. All right. So Kate, you're on point still for kind of setting these things up, and then we'll, whoever's available, we can convene. My schedule is basically
The last 2 days a week. Usually.
last 2 days of the week. I'm usually around. Sometimes, like tomorrow, I'm gonna have to probably go back, but we can coordinate, make it happen. So
My meetings are largely evenings and first thing in the morning, like 7:30 meetings. But other than that, I'm my schedule's
Okay.
pretty
Oh, great.
okay. Anything else on outreach? I think that seems like a good next step.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Mhm.
Anything else? We can move on. All right, so the next is the data request. And we had asked Dan to supply some information, which he did. I'm thinking how I'm going to get access to it now, because my personal thing is not going to
Dan
let me
is
on.
what?
Dan is our lawyer.
Oh, I Dan.
Our Dan, yeah.
Our Dan.
Gotcha.
We went to an audit once, and we brought our our accountant with us, and we introduced him as our son.
Our son, yeah. That's pretty good.
Well, it turns out we put the wrong thing on the wrong line. It didn't change the tax at all. But they wanted us to come in because they wanted to make sure we put it on the right line, and it was our accountant's issue. He said, well, we used to put it over here.
We claim our accountant as a dependent.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, we probably had more fun at an audit than everybody else ever does.
I got my computer working. So,
Fabulous.
all right. So I got this this from Dan, and I can forward it along to everybody because I just got it today.
Okay.
But essentially, he wrote on the page that we have there. So the one piece that he thought we ought to make it clear that we're not and the first piece specifically with respect to that we're not asking for any personally identifiable student information, and so we should make sure that it's clear that we're not being unreasonable there, and that we in fact we specifically ask that such information be removed or redacted so that we're not in an awkward position with that. He suggested that for the that we actually ask for the copies of the individual employment contracts as well as a list of them.
Okay.
He said we don't want titles, we want the deeds for the real estate under financial, the third item under financial.
I may be able to get my hands on they would all have been filed probably by us. So I may be able to get those from the town.
Okay. Under list of outstanding RSU5 bonds, debt, loans, / lease purchase agreements, you wanted to add. And then in the parenthetical, date of current amount, payment schedule, and maturity date. And then an additional item under financial, which would be a list of all reserve funds, scholarship funds, or trust funds, including purposes, current balances. Let's see, any other notes? Under vendors, an additional item called a list of all contracts to which RSU5 is a party. And again, I'll forward this by email as well. So, and then under programs, in the item Maine Regional 10 High School Contract / Cooperative Agreement. So I think there's a specific document, which is a cooperative agreement, which is between the school districts participating in the technical high school.
Oh, yeah.
Brunswick High School, the Durham students went to Region 10 through Brunswick's organizational agreement. And the Durham, the Pownell and Freeport kids went through Freeport's before that, so we may be able to get a copy. It's probably not much different anyway, other than it's been 5 years, so it's probably been amended or updated. Right.
And I think that I don't know the specifics. I mean, perhaps I should, but I don't know the specifics of how those cooperative agreements work. I've not looked at this agreement in my capacity as an RSU board member yet. So we do have a member of our board that sits on the board of Region 10. But I've not done that myself, so I'm not really familiar with that whole
We need to do
arrangement.
the contract is for and when it gets renewed.
And
so
whether we'd be automatically inheriting it, or whether we would be,
I think from their standpoint, they would certainly want us to inherit it.
yeah, right, and
Right,
whether we'd want to, right? I mean, are we obliged to, or is it optional? I don't know. So we'll have to figure out.
I think that's all negotiated, actually.
Right.
Are there any arrangements, I'm looking here for the first time, are there any arrangements on the use of athletic fields between towns, or is that?
Well, I think we would, that presumably would be part of our discussion if there is. I don't know.
I mean,
that
should we
there's-
just ask the question?
Yeah, the Pownell Road, the Pownell Road and the Pownell Road field belongs to the town of Freeport, not the school
Right.
district. And the Hunter Road fields are part of the town of Freeport, although we've never, anybody who's requested them has always been able to use them. And that's how they've been, and I don't see any reason why.
So there's
that
no
would
dollar
change.
impact that we need to
No,
consider?
there wouldn't be going forward. The currently owned RSU fields would be the ones here at the high school, the ones at the middle school. There's very few, there's not really a lot of them at all in Mass Landing. The fields here are connected to the North Street schools.
The area that we do a lot of sports together, right? So there's a lot of teams that are involved, both Durham and Freeport kids. So the lacrosse team, they take the Durham kids play. So, but that's all part of the for the younger grades, and of course here at the high school they're all in the same building. So.
I mean, this year there were some capital improvements we were going to try and get done over at Pownell Road. I mean, at the Pownell School. I know that we talked about those when we were working through the recommendation. They've got all new fields at Durham's. They're in really good shape.
Yeah, it's right there, nice.
I did not get in touch with Shannon today. I put a call into her, but we didn't connect. I was going to ask her how she wants us to handle this data request. It's a lot of work, and they're going to get a similar data request, presumably from the RSC working group or whatever. And I think I just wanted to. I don't know what she's going to say to that, but we'll file the request and she'll give us the information. But I did want to at least reach out to her and let her know that it was coming.
A request from this group is really a different request than you would get from a I guess a taxpayer, looking for public information. It's not, we need this in a timely fashion. Although we don't want to, we don't want to put them out. I mean, if they have anything they have that's easy, just send it to us. And anything that requires a little bit of work, I mean, let us know, if there's something we can do to help, or or maybe we're not asking for
the right thing.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
you need to help us with what we're asking for.
Exactly.
Because that happens from time to time. As a matter of fact, we get into trouble with it sometimes at town hall, because somebody will say, well, what is he really looking for? Because they'll come in and ask for something, and for a like, oh my God, you can't do that. You just have to get them what they ask for. Well, I'm just trying to get what they want.
Right.
There's enough form
it
to
gets
not
really-
ask for too much, but
Right,
to
right.
make sure that you're covering what you actually need.
Yeah, and unfortunately, most of the staff is really pretty helpful. They want to help you get what you need the first time. So.
Has everybody looked over this list? Have you had a chance to look over this list?
Yeah.
And there is a separate list that is there for the town,
Yeah.
and something that the items that Peter came up with. And then in the middle is something that I added today, which is the cooperative agreement. Some of that is, my understanding is with the RSU, and some of that is, and I know Jenny had to go to a trailer for the agreement with Pownell before the RSU, and I'm not sure which ones the town has versus the RSU has. And some of the other items, maybe like the course catalog at the high school, so that may be an RSU thing, but I know Abby and Pete had requested them, but I don't know what Freeport might have.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're going to run into is that
Storage.
we should have a lot of this information that was part of the school operating and budget and what have you information, because it was all submitted to the council. Before that, we were the public hearing that the town meeting style. So we had all that information, so we should have it all, and we approved it. So when we got done with it, it's a finished document. So we should be able to come up with most of that. I was looking at one of the requests here was transportation agreements. The only thing I think the town is involved in is the facility where we actually do maintenance. In storage, and I think at this point, we're not charging for that. You may know better, but I don't believe we're charging anything for that space. So, the other information in that, agreements with other towns on tuition and stuff like that, that would all be the RSU.
Right, there are other agreements that we might want to break out, like, for instance, there is an agreement about the Hunter Road field maintenance, right?
Yeah, the Hunter Road field maintenance was with the, and it's a contract, I think it was a 2 or 3 year contract.
Right.
We're going into our 2nd year of that, I think. And that may actually end at about the same time we make a change.
Okay.
And that's a little bit complex because the town of Freeport actually purchased equipment.
Equipment as part of the compensation for doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys, at this point, they're using it throughout the whole system.
It was a win-win deal. It was a good deal.
It is, that Toro was mowed like 7 or 8 acres in an hour.
A beautiful piece of equipment.
Really? It's a big game.
Yeah, I'd go mow that if they let me.
Too much fun.
So,
All right.
Right, so that, that's what we have for Abby at this point. So maybe,
I'll
if you
continue
want to take
to
a
work with
closer
her.
look, and then just let me know, and we'll.
Yeah,
that one should be
I will make it a point.
more
What is
straightforward,
today?
maybe.
Today's Wednesday.
Today's Thursday. Yeah,
She won't be
Thursday.
around this week. That's right.
Right,
So, yeah, first of the week I will check in with her. I've got meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week, so.
okay, yeah, I'd love to get it submitted early next week.
Let me, I'll try and get in there on Monday.
Do we know what the requirements are for turnaround on stuff like this?
I think much of this, when they find it, they'll just have it.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be instantaneous.
And what I'm gonna ask is, depending on whether they have it electronically or if they've got paper copies. I mean, well, if they have it electronically, certainly that's the way to go. And I think it was all transmitted at one point electronically. So if that's available that way, that would be great. We might ask for some paper copies if they can, just so we'll have things we can scribble on. I tried writing on the screen, and the screen changes and everything's.
Maybe a question for Dan,
Yeah.
as far as the
things in writing.
FOIA and what
All the
the
time.
expectations
John,
will be.
I don't think this is not the same. We're not in the same place as a FOIA request. We are we're
On the track.
we were appointed by the town council, and they will be supporting any requests that we have. for
I
information. So,
expect that
So
everybody
that's
is going to
the
be
town.
very cooperative in this,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
we're gonna get stuff rapidly, and this
we're
won't
a
be a problem.
standing committee of the town of Freeport.
Right,
so-
and then there'll be a
That's right.
conversation if there's other issues or things that are gonna take longer. I think Jenny's just fantastic.
Well,
I'd be
Ginny's very
surprised
good
if there
that
was a
way,
problem.
and so is
Within
Abby or whoever.
reason,
works
you know.
for the town.
I'm
as far
impressed.
the
As long as we're
burden-
not asking for the
burden on
world,
them.
right? Exactly.
So
Okay.
I will get into her office on Monday to make sure that, we at least know, at least both of us understand the request.
Right,
And have some sort of timeframe. how soon
and
we'll
I'll
see
be available by cell,
it. Okay,
anytime, I'll just
Great.
make myself available.
So we'll circulate this draft one more time, and then we'll aim to get it in on Monday. And I'll connect with Shannon and let her know it's coming.
Yeah,
make
and
sure
I
that
would,
we're all good.
and I think it's important that she understand if there's questions about this list,
Sure, of course.
talk to us, because
She's
we
been
may,
very cooperative.
we may not be asking for what we need or using the right words.
Is there anything else? She might add to it.
She may say,
She may
you
well.
probably ought to have this and this.
Right. And I would expect her to ask her to. To be part of our ask is should be a cover letter that says.
There's something
Please
else
feel
we're
free to
missing.
add
You don't
some
think
stuff
it's
that we
something
don't think. She's a font of knowledge, so that's good. All right. Anything else on that item?
Don't have anything. Yeah.
Okay, so next item, meeting structure and logistics. I don't know that we need to have a whole lot of discussion here. This is the meeting structure. The logistics. So Kate and I fiddled around a little bit with the recording and found that we could actually upload it to YouTube where people can stream it pretty comfortably. So after a few bumps and hurdles that we got over with the one constituent in particular, a couple folks that were trying to access it, they couldn't get access to it. We got it on YouTube, and that seemed to be pretty smooth. And that was it a lot of work for you to do?
No, it's really easy, actually.
Now, she's our
Right, she's the hidden techie, even though people were trying to give me credit for all the technology, it's Kate who's doing all the work.
I can get your
Good
card.
teamwork.
I can get your card to run,
Teamwork.
but not the computer in your car.
One thing, Rich, I thought it would is the recordings that we get out of this are in files
Yep.
that I think we can give to the town.
The
And the
audio.
town, the audio part, even with the video, with the screens, can put it on the file server for archival purposes, because we're required to do a 5-year or whatever it is record keeping thing. So we should give all of our minutes and all of our stuff to the town that they can keep it in some archive. So if the website gets taken down, or if Google changes their policy on how long they keep videos up or things like that, we don't currently get in trouble there.
Actually, that can be up online. I think they can put it up so folks can go in and access it from the town site, or as you can right now from our website.
Right.
Yeah, if they want to do that, that's fine. But I think just
We need to archive.
we're going to on YouTube, and that'll be most accessible to most everybody, most easily. So
And the chances are pretty good that it will be there for 5 years, but.
you're likely will be, but we just don't want
to make sure we will have it, it can be sent to, Peter Joseph or.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, if we copy it to Peter, it becomes part of the record. So
Great.
So
that's what we've done in the past. So, okay, I'll add that.
if you could let Peter know that we were expecting and requesting that he be ready to receive these rather large audio files. Other than that, I didn't have anything on logistics. Did you have anything else?
Yep. That's pretty much it.
I like this meeting room. I think it's a nice size room. We're a small group, and as you can see, the thronging hordes want to be here, have plenty of room.
And I think even if we do end up with half a dozen folks, it's plenty comfortable for half a dozen
Yeah,
folks.
it will be.
Um,
Plus the other logistical thing is that this service online publish the link to it, and people can
they'll
connect
jump in at home.
and watch from home live. So
Yeah, and I think that's probably something we should make it a point to get up on our website, the link to this, so that they know that, starting at roughly 6:30,
they can do it.
they can check
We
in.
haven't done that yet, but we're working the kinks out, because
Just
obviously
figured out
it
how to
took me
do it.
10 minutes to get the thing going tonight, and so now we've got that worked out.
And I can send that to email.
Okay. How to connect.
Get
yeah.
on to it.
Great. Up for trying that next time if you want to, and you might in your email just say, please be patient for a few minutes if it's not available right away. But
We don't have
sometimes
any
it
hired
takes us a
tech
few minutes.
staff.
Yeah, right. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, but we'll get better and better at it.
Is for me that the meeting structure is this our meeting or is it their meeting? And who's going to chair?
The meeting structure for next week, right? So that's it's our meeting, and the two chairs are supposed to meet. We were trying to connect prior to tonight so we could talk about it a little bit, but Michelle was indisposed, so we were not able to connect. So we're planning to connect either Sunday or Monday, and my intention is that we would together, the two of us will come up with an agenda for Wednesday, and then we'll co-chair or something like that. I don't, we'll see. We'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem. My concern was that their cheerleader end up chairing this.
Right. No, we won't. That won't happen. I don't think.
The other piece of this for me is, largely our discussion will surround the 11 items that we need to discuss. I would guess working down. Now we might change the order just so we pick the the low-hanging fruit as the first 2 or 3 items we discuss. And if there seems to be some consensus around in broad terms, well, the real estate would go back to whoever's it was. The buses will sort out by how we came into this and what investments we made in the interim. And if people are nodding their head from there, it's math.
Yeah. So I think that's what I had in mind as well. The idea that paint a broad brush picture, and we indicate that it's our understanding that we're charged with going away and coming up with an initial draft, and then we agree on, then we see if people are nodding their heads about the big points, and then we go away and do that and come back, right? And the first meeting is about timeline, about agreeing to that kind of a structure, about getting to know each other a little bit and how we're going to work going forward. So
That's it, that's the,
at the table, to set the table and ground rules, that kind of thing, right?
For this meeting, will they be recording it?
That's one of the questions I would ask.
Ask
Michelle?
her, because if they're, because we can broadcast from here also.
Right.
So if they're not going to live, we could,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to know fairly soon
Yeah.
so I can get staff in for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think it's an important meeting. I think that folks should be able to get access to that. That first meeting that we did at Town Hall, I can't believe how well that came out.
Yeah.
I mean, you could hear, you could see everything. I mean, that
It was
really,
good. Yeah. So we'll. My plan is to ask Michelle about how we want to run. We'll work on how we want to run the meeting. Work on ask her if they're going to have their lawyer present for the first meeting, and if they are, then we would want to. I'm going to try to indicate that our plan was that we would not need one at the first meeting. And then we talk about the agenda and so forth, and then the logistics about recording and so forth. Because I think it's important. But I don't know that it needs to be live necessarily, but that it's recorded and available for everybody to see and hear. That would be great. Live would be better.
We're all starting to hear is, what are you guys doing? What are we up to?
Yeah.
Is there anything going on?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's something we can broadcast live and then put back in the slot to
Yeah.
rebroadcast,
Yeah.
folks start seeing that and they realize there is something going on.
Mhm.
And I hope that they're willing to actually have this first meeting, not so much with attorneys, because nobody wants to talk too much then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really think that if we can agree on, the principles of, the structure of the
Term sheet.
Yeah, of the items here. What we'll do is we'll come back to you. Clearly, there's 6 things here that we can come up, we can sort out pretty quickly. We can forward you guys the language, so when we get together next time, we'll be prepared to kind of put those things to bed and move on to other items. Because I think if we have some success early, we get back to them, early April with, the second meeting to get after, the more meatier subjects. We'll be able to stay closer on track.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sounds good. I think the other thing on general timeline is I think we should be targeting mid-May to try to wrap this thing up from an agreement to DOE, to get the agreement to DOE, a proposed agreement, and then kind of work backwards from there. There's a lot of not on our plates necessarily, like for the RSU, they need to figure out high school arrangements and contracts and cover the kids, and that all has to be locked up. If that's not part of our agreement, they have to do that with somebody else, and that's sort of out of our control. But I think if we kind of set that at the bar, then we have a little bit of room if we need to slip a little bit before we get up against the wall. We're kind of up against the wall by the time we get to June, as far as getting all the, if you consider the timelines of backups, and if we have to do another cycle through and getting it done for November. And I think everybody's eager to get it done by November. So
yeah, you think everybody is?
I think so. Last time I talked with Michelle, she indicated she was. The chair indicated the other night to me directly he was. So I think these things are, nobody wants this hanging over the heads. It's kind of got the school on pause, right? As far as everybody's.
So they're motivated.
Put a building project on pause. It's put a search for superintendent. You've got some principals that are going to be hired. There's a bunch of stuff that's kind of.
Okay, that's good.
So
Good place to be.
I think everybody wants it to be resolved one way or the other, and let's get it done. So I think hopefully that motivation carries through into the negotiations, and we can keep the ball rolling.
And I know that our legislative body is working on, they're working on really taking the what do we call it, the deadline and taking that deadline out means that there's, that whole strategy just goes away. It evaporates. There's no reason to not negotiate honestly and get it done.
Yep. No, I think that's going to be important for us, and hopefully folks are contacting their legislators about that, because that's an important piece for this negotiation to be moving forward. Quickly, I think so.
Bill is definitely it went through the floor. It's going to be what they call engrossed, and then it's going to come back. So hopefully, at this point, we're still looking at the quorum of votes will still be in place, but the 2/3 majority of January 1, that deadline will not be. remains, so.
That remains.
No, that would be
That
gone.
would, that would be gone.
Yeah,
based on this bill.
it takes, if this bill passes, it takes away any deadline for a change in the voting.
Okay,
Right.
that I got.
Exactly.
And
For us, for our particular type of district.
yeah, it doesn't for some of the reconsolidated SADs and stuff like that, but it does for.
And that came from, was that anticipated, that law?
That legislation, yeah, well, it's been in the works for a while. now.
Who's sponsored locally, or?
No, I don't think it's.
No,
I
I
think
think
it was Hancock originally, but
Really?
there's a few different.
Some of the folks that have signed on to it. The
Right.
problem was that, people start a process like this and they'd say, well, we can get
Yeah,
done
no,
in 6
no,
months,
no,
and it
I know.
turns out taking
Sure.
2 years.
Yeah.
And so there are folks out there in process now that have been.
Oh, good. So
And
there's
their
other people
concern is-
that have this.
It's one of those unintended consequences
Yeah.
of having a step function like that and the change in the rules, is
Exactly.
that people then decide that, well, if we just hang in there for a little while, then all of a sudden the rules change and it gets a little bit better, easier or harder, right, depending on where you are.
Yeah,
So.
and largely, the way rules get treated, in zoning and, a lot of other statutes, once you're in process, you lock into
Yeah,
a set of rules
yeah,
that are in place
yeah,
then.
yeah.
And we're being told by the, I guess, the RSU's attorney that, oh, no, all
Not with
this
this one,
changes.
yeah.
And there are attorneys who are already starting to argue that, oh, yes, it does stay the same. And what's happening is because the date hasn't come and gone, and until you get to the law court to have that discussion,
Not tested.
everybody's just claiming.
Yeah.
So-
Interesting. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, so I think there's some urgency in part of the legislature to sort that out.
All right, so I have an action item to continue to reach out to Michelle and make an agenda and get that that first initial meeting structured, and then we have a meeting immediately thereafter, so we can
The next night.
the next night. And Dan said that he would try to have some kind of an outline, draft by that point, at least something that we could begin to iterate on that meeting and what kind of input we want to give to him on how to dial in the various agreement parameters and the information packet or whatever information we have by then, which may not be much, but we can begin to feed him that stuff.
I think you sent it to me electronically available. You sent the electronically 11 items?
Yes, a
We
while
have
back,
it.
but I could send that out again.
Well, and what I'm wondering is if it's a document that I'd be able to open up or amend,
Mhm.
because what I want to do is build some space, put some notes in, and then I'll work from that night. Because I think
Okay.
it may be an opportunity for each of us to, because it's going to be I'm hoping it's going to be a workshop. We can tick off the easy ones, and from there, if there's some discussion around it, well, okay, that, they feel this way and we feel this way, but let's see if first kind of whack at this. So, we'll bring it back and see where it goes. But if we got room under each item to.
Do you think it'd be worth reaching out to Dan to see if that's the approach that he would go with, or if he would
I'm
go
not
with
sure
more
that
of
the
an
11
out-
items is really helpful, but
or if he
we
would
have
go
to,
with like an outline of the agreement. I don't know
we'll see.
which would be the
Let's
best.
see, we'll need to look at the 11 items because we have to check them all off. But the 11 items they're necessary but not sufficient, right? There are certain things that we'll have to negotiate that are interesting things that are not in the 11 items. But we'll, but I think if you would like to have a copy of it electronically, we can get you that and you can make your notes.
Yeah, I can
whatever
do
you
it a
need
lot
to.
with it from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Special
I should be able to
education,
find
there's
it.
a lot of issues that be all that difficult, I would think. That may be additional items in the agreement.
Well, and that's probably going to be complex, but not
I
difficult.
would think it would be complex.
Yeah,
Why
and
not?
I think there's a lot of things here that are just going to take time. There's a lot of manipulation, or figures and facts and what have you. But there's some things that are philosophical,
Right.
and that's going to be the 2 or 3 that will be difficult.
Exactly.
That's an example of that.
I
How many
think,
kids?
yeah, where the kids going to go?
Okay.
And so we talked the last time, there's the spectrum is everything from, we commit to take all the RSU kids and we basically have a 700-person high school here and we have to build a
Has
big
its own
expansion and
stresses,
so
yeah.
forth. And that's one extreme of the spectrum of possibilities. The other extreme of the spectrum of possibilities is that we agree and they commit to send none, right? And then we can see if we can attract some later or not, and so and there's everything in between there, from us saying we'll take up to a certain number, a certain percentage, them saying we commit to a certain number, a certain percentage, and ranges, sub-ranges, and so forth. And at the end of the day, the only thing the law requires is that they have a 10-year plan that guarantees 100% acceptance of their kids at some school or other. And so one possibility that other districts have had that I know was mentioned in a public meeting from the RSU was the idea that the withdrawing, that the party with the high school backstops the party without the high school. In other words, the party of the high school says, we aren't expecting all of your kids, but we'll make room for them if they come, if you can't find another place for them, kind of thing. And I think that's going to be a tough pill for us to swallow, because that's a lot of kids for us to kind of backstop and guarantee.
That's right.
So at any rate, that was mentioned at the other night at the public meeting, and I so that's why I mentioned it here. But that's another dimension to this thing, is this kind of idea that we're not expecting to take the kids, but we're going to guarantee them for the purpose of covering that clause of the law, that requirement in the DOE.
And there may be
insurance policy.
There may be several ways to write that. You know, that would prevent us from having all of them here, you know, suddenly. But that might mean a double sessions, you know. So you know, and nobody wants to be there. And you know, the frustration, you know, is Greeley and Brunswick have both reached out to them because they have capacity, so trying to figure out we're in a different place than a lot of schools are, in that there's capacity around us to do any number of things.
Which is right. So I think we should be careful not to get too worried about anything, because this problem may be solving itself. We'll see. We'll see.
And then the issue of the middle school as well. We need to make sure we consider it.
Well, and that was one of the pieces that I really want to have a little bit more information about as we go along. The real capacities for, you know, and that's more mass landing on middle school, and the high school. One of the things that we see here in Maine and a lot of other is middle school is, you know, here it's 6, 7, and 8. There are a lot of places where it's only 7, 8. At one point we had a problem here, that back before you were on the board, people, there was we had 8th graders who were driving. You know, they'd started early K, pre-K, early K, then regular K, and by the time they got to 8th grade, they had a driver's license. So, but they brought a whole different set of social issues to the middle school. And it was really kind of strange, because I remember you know, talking with people about it. Wow. And then everything changed a little bit, and that group of kids had gone through that, you know, moved on, and things got back to more normal in the middle school. But it was, so I mean, those kind of things happen. There are folks who argue that it should be just 2 grades. You know, one of the challenges we know we struggle with here in Freeport is we're on 4 buildings.
Yeah.
You know, and getting to 3 buildings is very expensive. So, you know, that's something we all need to keep in our minds as we look at strategies to, you know, how many kids, you know, go open.
So I guess that brings us to the end of our agenda, except we have an option for an executive session. I'm not sure we have anything to discuss in executive session. So unless anybody has, you know, pressing, I would suggest we skip the executive session tonight. I think we talked about everything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't know how far we would get on some of these items if we're going to dig into some strategies, but at this point, I think we're going to do more of a global meeting on the items as we get there. And there's no need to do that tonight. Yeah, I think it's hard. This is kind of about how do we get started, right? So we got to get some traction, and we're getting some traction on the data request. We get some traction with the attorney. We need to get traction with the working group, and then at that point, we may have some substantive topics to talk about that we want some session time with our attorney on. But at the moment, I think there's not much there. Yeah, I'm good. I would, like I said, as far as if you're going to try and schedule meets, just let me know. Usually, if I can get 4 hours in advance notice, I can be available. That way, at least I can make sure Dale gets lunch.
All right, so we didn't have any motions this meeting, so there's nothing, no motions for the meet, other than minutes, I guess. And the motion to adjourn, which I'll entertain now.
Move it. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
All right.
we're done. Thing down here.
You guys didn't do much of a job on these snacks.